you touched upon AI a little bit, right? And how it's interesting that people who used to just be developers now really have to hone their skills to be reviewers, right? And it kind of elevates or shifts that level of job. I mean, do you see that as an important transition for developers in the open source ecosystem? And um, any expectations with regard to AI improving security by having more security by design attributes in the code that it generates?
I'll pull that into two different parts. I think there's a natural evolution for participants in open source communities to go from contributor to maintainer. And that inflection point happened for me in more than one project. When it became popular and useful to other people, and they began submitting code and patches and bug reports. And my day-to-day went from I write code to, wow, this is cool code that other people have written, and they want me to merge it because it helps them. That inflection point is a natural part of the open source developer journey. AI, I don't even like the term AI. They're statistical, very complex. It's so much statistics, it becomes mystical. But they're bias amplification tools. They're generating statistical probabilistic code, not intelligently writing something. They're repeating what they've seen, mixing with other things they've seen. I think it was a tweet this morning from one of our CNCF colleagues who tried out Copilot again and noted that it wrote really good code for her until she reviewed it the third time. And there was a very easy to miss bug in the code that would have been a very exploitable vulnerability if it had ever been actually merged anywhere. And the code looked good. At a glance, to a novice developer or a busy developer, it would have been merged. I think the risk is really high that these LLMs, large language models, generate and repeat bad paradigms. The risk there is much higher.
Well, that doesn't bode well for our future, because that's where everything seems to be going. And to the best of my knowledge, LLMs are, as you say, a statistical bias amplifier, right? And so it's not looking at things. And so, yeah, it's interesting.
If we could trivially measure and distinguish secure code from insecure code, we wouldn't need an LLM to write it.
Yeah, but the world would be really boring if we had all that figured out. I think AI is really interesting because it will be a challenge, as we talked about on the technology side, like the code that the LLMs are generating. And it also creates challenges on the social side. I think there will be probably even more misunderstandings and perceptions of things that are not reality, like AI, like some magical thing that is already like the sci-fi movies, and it can do everything and it will take everybody's jobs. And I know that there is a wide range of understanding out in the world, but at the same time, not everybody is an expert on how LLMs are working, even in the tech industry or soon almost any industry, because most industries are using technology a higher and higher extent. So I kind of wonder how much blind trust there will be in AI, or how much it will disrupt the open source communities as well, not just again on the technology, but on the social side. Like I have to review AI code. There are different policies in different communities, but not every community has a policy in terms of AI generated code, even AI generated mail responses on a mailing list, because sometimes you can spot them and sometimes it's harder to spot them. And it's even worse when you don't spot them because, as Ava, you were describing, it uses snippets that it learned from somewhere, and it puts it together. So like a user question about, hey, how do I deploy this software because I ran into this failure? We did see responses to questions like this on the mailing list that was generated by AI, and it wasn't exactly solid. So it was an experience that an AI bot shared that never happened. And that's really dangerous because I think that it's very similar to the code example that you shared, that you have to read the email carefully to spot that it's not accurate. But if someone is desperate for help and they're just scanning it through, then they're like, oh, it's not going to work for me either if it didn't work for that person, even though it's not a person and the story never happened. I assume there will be a lot more education that needs to happen in this space. And I wonder how the security aspect will be in this regard, because we're currently sort of fighting with trying to make sure that people and humans are taking security seriously and the right way. So how can we deal with all that when we have AI bots all over the place?
I have so many thoughts and a lot of frustration around all of the hype. We've, I think each of us have seen hype cycles in the tech industry. I also think this one around AI is a bit different because of its social and societal impact, not just on tech and open source developers, but what you're describing, Iltiko, is a microcosm of the kind of social impact that I'm seeing these bots have on everybody. News articles online and websites that are just bot generated now. Social media is flooded with fake content. I think the first time that this came to my attention was a talk at DEF CON, I think 6 years ago now. A team of researchers set up a deep fake of a senator who was going to be at DEF CON and demonstrated to him in one of the rooms with a large audience this capability. And it's gone from, it takes a large team and a lot of effort 6, 7 years ago now to what the latest OpenAI voice cloning technology, I think they said 15 seconds. Like, tech does one thing, it accelerates. This acceleration, I don't think is good for society. It may be useful for product development, but I don't currently see the balance. It doesn't seem well balanced. It may accelerate some development, but it's also accelerating a lot of harm to society, just having these AI tools. Not even a question about whether they're open source or not, just their existence is affecting society.